friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And I'm here today to talk more about thyroid health, generally speaking. So a few years ago, it was about 3.5 years ago from the time I'm shooting this video, Patrick and I did a video together on how we got off our thyroid medications. But one of the things we forgot to point out right at the top of the video is that we had hypothyroidism, which means an underactive thyroid. So in other words, we still have our thyroid glands. So though I mentioned if you've had your thyroid removed in that video, you will probably still need to stay on medication. Some people still miss that part. But I didn't specify that the things that we did for our own cells were for hypothyroidism, not hyperthyroidism or Graves' disease. So I want to cover a few points, and then for those with Graves' disease, I want to go over a few things that you should avoid that people like us want to add more of, and some things that you might want to add that people like us want to avoid. But there also are some nutrients and foods that are good whether you have hypothyroidism, hyperthyroidism, or Hashimoto's. But Hashimoto's really does fit more into the hypothyroidism, so you can follow a lot of the stuff we did in that video. But again, everything has to be tailored to you. Not everything we did is going to work for every person. We have had a lot of testimonies come in though from that video, that people that followed our basic guidelines and have been able to get off the thyroid medication completely, have gone back and had blood tests done, and everything was normal. Now, before I get into some of these points, let me give you a couple more updates. No, I have, as of yet, still not bothered to go in for a blood test, and here's why. I know how I should feel. I know what it feels like when the thyroid is underactive, and I know what it feels like when it's normal, and it feels normal. And so I know I'm doing good. My energy levels have been good. Even for 55 years old, I'm still doing great. Much better in a lot of ways than what I was doing when I was on the medication over 9.5 years ago. We've been off from the time I'm shooting this video now for 9.5 years, and we're still doing great. And Patrick, he has had to have a couple of physicals done simply because of his CDL license. So he does have to get that done regularly, and every physical he has done, the doctors tell him he's doing great, and he's healthier than most men at least 20 years younger than him. So that should say a lot right there. Now let me talk about some specific points, and then I'm going to also give a few suggestions for those who suffer from Graves' disease. Generally speaking, just a good healthy diet is going to benefit everyone. No matter what issues you're dealing with, just finding a good healthy diet that's going to work for you. Now that's going to vary from person to person. Some people find cutting out grains really does a lot to help with their gut health, which then helps with many other issues that they are having. Typically, at least with hypothyroidism, it is a symptom of other underlying conditions, and I would assume hyperthyroidism is the same thing. A lot of these diseases you're being treated for are actually symptoms of other underlying conditions, or even something as simple as stress. And that stress can be stress we're putting onto our body from taking synthetic medications. That could be stress that we're under from outside sources, and so on. So getting your stress under control is one great way. I mean, we all deal with stress from time to time, it's normal. But dealing with that is going to help with a lot of the other symptoms that you should not be being medicated for in the first place. Drinking plenty of good healthy water, something that hasn't been tainted with fluoride and chlorine. Lots of good herbal teas, getting plenty of exercise, and plenty of rest. These are going to be things that are good for everyone, especially cutting something like fluoride through the means of Teflon pans and your water supply. That's going to benefit everyone no matter what your health conditions are. everyone should be avoiding fluoride as much as possible. Stop using fluoridated toothpaste, stop using Teflon pans, and stop drinking the city water that's been fluoridated unless you have a good fluoride filter. You have to have a specific fluoride filter to remove the fluoride. You can't just buy any filter and have it take the fluoride out, because it's far smaller than any other contaminants that are added to the water or maybe in the water. Now, if you've had your thyroid removed, I'm going to cover this one again simply because I did mention it in that video, but a lot of people missed that, and I'm going to say that again. It's unlikely, if your thyroid is completely gone, that you will be able to go off medication ever. But there's still natural forms of the thyroid medication out there. Sadly, however, more and more the push for the synthetic medication is being put on doctors to prescribe to you. And some doctors I've been hearing lately are getting to where they're just refusing to prescribe the natural thyroid. And a lot of them don't even believe that it works, even though all but one story I've heard from people that have come in and commented under that video, every other person that said that they went on the natural thyroid, whether it be they switched from the synthetic to the natural or they've been on the natural, they've been doing very well. There's only one person that didn't do well on it that shared her story, and my guess is it has to do with other conditions that she's dealing with. So I would say, generally speaking, natural thyroid should work best and better for everyone, because anything that's been synthesized is going to have side effects, whether it be mild to bad. And for us, the main side effect we dealt with being on the synthetic medication was joint problems. My knees were getting worse and worse, and it was getting harder when I was teaching ballet and martial arts to do the deep knee bends. In ballet, it's done a certain way, and it's called a grand plie. And in martial arts, it's just a deep knee bend. And I got to where I couldn't even do them anymore. But once I got off that medication, it was just within a couple of months, it seemed. All of a sudden, I could do that stuff again. And I remember the first day I wasn't even thinking, and I was in ballet, and I did a grand plie, and everybody just stopped and looked at me, and I went, oh my gosh, I just did a grand plie, and it didn't hurt. Because my dance students knew I wasn't able to do them because my knees hurt so much. That's all gone now. Patrick had problems with a joint in his shoulder, hurting all the time. We couldn't figure out what it was. Once he stopped taking that medication, it just faded away, and all of a sudden one day you realized my shoulder doesn't hurt anymore. So if you're having joint problems of any kind and you're on a synthetic thyroid medication, I would say the chances are very, very high it's because it's a result of that thyroid medication. So again, if you've had your thyroid removed, just do the best you can to still follow the good, healthy things, especially that we did for hypothyroidism. That still should be very helpful. And then do your best. If your doctor is trying to avoid getting you on natural thyroid medication, then find a naturopath or any other doctor that is willing to do that for you. If they truly care about you and they know anything about actual health care, they will do that for you. And a lot of doctors, they are required to prescribe a medication right off the bat, but if they're a good doctor and they know their stuff, they will also, along with that, recommend natural means to help you heal yourself. Because you have to remember, most doctors, they're not taught natural health. They're not taught natural healing. They are taught very first and foremost big pharma medications. That's what they're taught, and that's what most of them know. Any doctor that knows anything beyond that when it comes to actual natural remedies, it's most likely because they cared enough to do the research for themselves and learn about natural medications. And there's plenty of doctors out there like that. They started out in the conventional way, and as they went along, they started finding and learning on their own about natural ways to heal the body. And I'm going to link down below to a book written by an MD that started out in those conventional ways he was taught and started leaning more towards natural supplementation when he learned more about it. Very interesting, and I know there's a lot more out there, and those who know of some good books like that, especially ones that were written by MDs that learned on their own and realized and actually found these things to work with their patients. I know there's more out there. I can't think of them right now. Then go ahead and share the name and the book down below. Don't share the link just because it will automatically go into held for review. I mean, if you do, eventually I'll get in there and I can approve it, but it's better if you just put the name of the book and the name of the person who wrote it so people can go find that for themselves. And a couple more points before I get into the tips for those with Graves' disease is that in most cases, hypothyroidism is misdiagnosed because most doctors are still just testing the blood for the thyroid stimulating hormone, which really could mean that you have an underactive thyroid, or it can mean something else. So putting you on a medication for that is inappropriate. And they should actually be testing your thyroid levels. Yes, it's more involved and likely a more expensive test, but that's a better way to go about it. Instead of going with the cheap and easy way just to go, okay, your thyroid stimulating hormone is high, so let's put you on medication for a low thyroid. It's just dumb is what it is. So most people are misdiagnosed in the first place. And then as I said, a lot of times maybe your thyroid is underactive or even overactive, but it's likely a cause of some other underlying issue that needs to be dealt with. So treating a symptom is not going to make you get better. And you also need to remember that every one of these doctors that go right to the synthetic medication, they are all told you will be on it for the rest of your life. So that's why they tell you that. We were told the same thing. We know many people, other people that were told the same thing, that either refused the medication or did what we did and are doing much better as a result. So no, you do not have to be on it for the rest of your life. Even though I'll link to that video down below and you can go back and watch it, I'll just go ahead and let you know, we were each on thyroid medication for 15 years apiece. We got put on it about the same time, and I was the one that finally said, that's it, I've had it. I started with myself, weaning myself off the medication, and then I started weaning Patrick off the medication. Really recommend that you listen to that video and what we said in there and how we do it. But remember also, we are not doctors. We're just sharing our own personal testimony, what worked for us. One more little pointer I want to put in there. And I've known this for years. And the current number of people here in the United States alone that die annually from prescription medications, we're not talking about overdoses or medications that are not being taken at the proper time and proper amount. We're talking about medications that are being prescribed and that the people are taking them in the proper dosage at the proper time for the proper length of time. And what I mean, according to the prescribed means that the doctor is giving it to them. 168,000 people annually. That's over 2,400 people a day dying from taking the medications taken as prescribed. So that doesn't even account for all the ones that shouldn't have been given to the people in the first place and mixed with other medications, or the people are taking them in the wrong doses instead and not taking them as prescribed. So that doesn't even count for that. 168,000 people a year. Now you tell me what the real health crisis is here. Enough of that. One of these days, I'm going to do that Rumble video. I just need the time to do it. So let me move on to the Graves' disease and a few things that you can avoid or add to your diet that should be helpful in getting you in the right direction. Now, again, I'm not a doctor. I'm just going by some real quick research I did. And the things that you should avoid are, when it comes to food, are a lot of the same things that someone with hypothyroidism needs to add to their diet, and that is seafood, dairy, iodine, high amounts of beef or chicken, and high amounts of grains. Grains are one of those that can go for either one. And also egg yolks and ashwagandha. So these are things that can be very beneficial to someone with hypothyroidism, but if you have hyperthyroidism / Graves' disease, these are the things you need to either avoid completely or at least really reduce your consumption of. Now, some things that you can add to your diet would be, as far as food, drink, and herbs, would be green tea, lemon balm, bugleweed. That's a new one to me. I've never heard of it, but you can look into it for yourself. And lots of raw cruciferous vegetables. So if you have hypothyroidism, when you're eating cruciferous vegetables, brassicas, it's best to cook them first because you're trying to remove the goitrogens. But those with hyperthyroidism, eating those things raw are going to be best for you. So enjoy that raw broccoli and cauliflower and all that yummy stuff as much as you want, because that's going to be helpful for that. And then for nutrients, what I found interesting is 4 of the nutrients I'm going to list are also very good for those with hypothyroidism. So that's your B complex, your selenium, your vitamin D, and probiotics, whether it be in a capsule form or you're just making lots of good probiotic things like water kefir, milk kefir, kombucha, and so on. The things that you really like when it comes to that. If you don't like any of that stuff, then look for a good high quality probiotic that's in a capsule form. And the other one is L-carnitine. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it. I'm assuming because of the L, that means it's an amino acid. That one is supposed to be good for hyperthyroidism, but you also have to be careful. So look into that and just, I would say, start with really small doses. I can't tell you what that is because I really don't know. So I recommend you look into that for yourself. Now, another video I'm going to link to down below that should be very helpful when you start doing research into any health issue, whatever it is. I did a video that should help cover all the bases, especially when it comes to health and how you can research things for yourself, because a lot of people don't even know where to start. It's kind of a long video, but I do put in a lot of information and also share some stories on how certain things worked for me to be able to actually self-diagnose properly before going to the doctor, a couple of issues, and so on. So please watch that video and be patient with it because it is long, but I believe all the information I have in there will be very helpful. And anyone else that would like to throw in their own testimonies of what have helped them, whether it be Hashimoto's or Graves' disease, anything that you have done naturally to be able to help get away from the medications. And even if you've had your thyroid removed, we in fact had a testimony on that video where someone did have their thyroid completely removed and they're not on medication and they're doing great. And I'm going by what they said there. I do believe, generally speaking, the body can really heal itself. Now, I don't know that if a thyroid's been completely removed that it can actually grow back, but this lady said that she actually had blood work done and her blood work came back normal. So I don't want to say it is possible. I don't want to say it's not. But this is where having real testimonies from real people is really helpful. But don't just trust those alone. Read them and use them to help spur you into looking into some of these things for your own self. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.